Hey guys, this is part one of a three-part series. A lot of younger fans might not know who BJ Penn is, or if they do, they only know him for the long losing streak he had at the end of his career. On the surface, his record looks terrible. He was 16-14 in MMA, and he finished his career off with a 7-fight losing streak. This is not a good representation of his abilities as a fighter. Penn had the nickname the Prodigy for a reason, because he had a lot of talent. Penn should be recognized as one of the top 10 GOATs in MMA. Let's take a look back at his career. He started training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the age of 17. He moved from Hawaii to California to train under Ralph Gracie. He would go on to earn his black belt under Andre Pederneiras. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because he's the longtime trainer of Jose Aldo. He is thought to have earned a black belt in the shortest amount of time. It was just 3 years. In the year 2000, he actually won gold at a black belt world championship tournament in Brazil, which was a first for a non-Brazilian to do so. It just shows he was proficient in that martial art. There are many black belts in MMA, but it is in name only. Penn is at true black belt level. Penn, in 2001, would go on to participate in MMA. At the age of 22, he debuted at UFC 31. That year, he had 3 KO finishes, which included names like Dean Thomas and Kyle Uno. I would recommend for you to go watch that fight against Kyle Uno. He was able to KO him cold in just 11 seconds. That fight really propelled him, and those wins earned him a shot at the title against Pulver. Penn would go on to lose in a closely contested 5-round majority decision. In that fight, Penn gassed out, which would be a common theme in his fighting career. There were questions regarding his discipline and how hard he actually trained. He relied on his natural abilities and had the ability to finish fights, so he probably didn't think fights would go into the later rounds. After that, he fought twice more, including a decision victory over Matt Serra, earning another chance at the lightweight title, which was currently vacant. In the title match, he fought Kyle Uno at UFC 41 in a rematch. This time, it went to a 5-round draw. Penn probably didn't train at all. I can't say I'm surprised. He definitely thought he would KO him once again in round 1, after defeating him with such ease before. That lackluster result made the UFC completely get rid of the lightweight division for the time being. They didn't have a champion, and they were going to focus on the heavier divisions. They didn't see it as financially viable to keep running. In my opinion, the reason that fight went that way was because Penn was too overconfident and probably just rolled out of bed to go fight. Fighters make that mistake only because you get the knockout in the first fight. You still need to come in good shape for this rematch. The KO may not come, and you need to always prepare to go the full distance. Next, Penn would leave the UFC to fight Takanori Gomi in K1 Rumble on the Rock, in which he won the lightweight championship by submission. After that fight, he would return to the UFC and challenge Matt Hughes for the welterweight title at UFC 46. Hughes was in his prime and a dominant champion at that time. He had 5 title defenses. Penn was a heavy underdog. For the fight, Penn weighed in at 169 pounds, meaning he didn't even have to cut weight. He was fighting above his natural weight class. I remember Hughes said that he had underestimated Penn since he was coming off from a smaller division, that he thought he would just be able to toy with him. This is how the fight went. They started off striking, with Penn putting pressure. Hughes went for some sort of sloppy takedown, and somehow Penn turned it on him and ended up being on top of Hughes. Penn was able to keep control from the top and do some ground and pound. Towards the end of the round, he was able to land a big right hand while standing over Hughes. That punch rocked him badly, which enabled Penn to take his back and submitted him by rear naked choke. Penn was now the champion, but due to contract disputes, he left the UFC. That is unthinkable nowadays because of the prestige of being UFC champion. And also, contracts are much harder to get out of. The UFC will prolong it as long as possible. They can tie up fighters in litigation for years. They also have some sort of clause now that they can't fight for like a year as UFC champ. Basically, the UFC is only okay with you leaving if you lose in the UFC so that their new champ is recognized as legitimate. All right, guys, that is all for part 1. Watch part 2 in order to continue this career recap of Penn. If you like the content, like and subscribe. Thanks.